Eric Larson and Gunner Larson. We created the Panzer factory here with the Panther A's for BrickFair based off the Panzer Brick Labs kits that we have. So Gunner did the outside areas and the train cars and the air raid shelter, so I'll let him go over a few of the details on that.
This is the outside area. These are anti-aircraft crew, flak helpers. When they turn 15, they would go help on flak guns and such, so they're learning about their gun, I presume. They're unloading stuff on the boxcars back there, on little trolley things. Some flat cars with tracks on it. These tanks are coming back from the battlefield to be repaired. This was the only factory that was allowed to repair Panther tanks.
So did this factory actually exist in real life then?
Yes, this did exist. It's based on a real factory. It's a bit smaller, it's scaled down to fit the mock. This is a German shunt engine. It was only used in important Wehrmacht places. Some German gondolas, unloading fuel barrels. The bunker down here was used for air raids, so they would go down the entrance on that side of the mock and, well, wait for the air raid to pass over. Commander's room down there and some phones and such. That's about it for this part. You can go to him for the rest.
Yep.
So when the inspiration really for the mock was the video that you did of the Sherman factory, if you went back. So we were talking last year what we could do, and we said, okay, well, let's do something like that, but let's do something a little bit different. So we started looking at the German factories, but that's kind of sensitive too. So I wanted to look at a factory that used German workers and that, but also did a tank that was really unique. And that's why we see the old photos of the oxide red primer on a lot of the tanks. And so we did the research in the book, and we were able to look at the entire line. So this MAN factory still exists in Nürnberg today. They produce electric trucks and a lot of electric vehicles. When I contacted them, they didn't want to have anything to do with any aspect of World War II in their museum they had. So we did the research on our own. It was just an assembly plant, so the actual tanks would come in their raw form, and parts from all over Germany would arrive, and then they would actually slowly assemble the tank as it went down. So they'd cut its road wheels, they'd cut the holes for road wheels, add the wheels, machine the turret ring. So you can see the process as you walk through the mock of the actual assembly of the tank from start to finish. And then all the details there were interesting. I had to look at all the different suppliers. It was Bosch and Maybach, and all the companies you hear today are the boxes and different crates. And then when we started looking at the inside of the turret, grease fittings, the batteries, the entire interior that would have to go inside the tank, which was really at the smaller scale, kind of hard to break the tank open and actually be able to make it look like it was, the way it should actually look, historically accurately. So, another interesting item here was the actual tank crews would show up and at the end of the process and actually learn how to put in the engine and work on the engine and basically the drivetrain with the factory workers. So when they were in the field, they could do field repairs. And this was the only factory that was allowed to repair Panthers that had come back damaged from the front, so they would have had those sitting out waiting for repair as well. So,
yeah. I love the little details in here, kind of all the different parts of the tanks that you have on the tables there. So it just kind of fills in really nicely, and you can just imagine kind of the scene, the hubbub and the scenery going on here in the factory.
Exactly. I wanted to make it a little bit chaotic because the photos are. Another thing we did is we did the MAN factory workers. So all the minifigs are done by us. So I had to do the actual uniforms that they had in the factory, and the headgear that they had at the time. A lot of those, they were wearing a lot of those caps. So that worked out. And for water lights, we do have all the welding. This does have lights. It does have a roof, and it does have a front, but with the Sherman factory, you couldn't really see into it, and I really wanted people to be able to see into it more, so that's why we took those off, and they're underneath the table, but they are there. But so it was interesting. I've had a lot of people come by, German speakers that have come from Germany for BrickFair, and they're looking at my spelling and making sure everything's correct. So I missed a thing here or two. So anybody from Germany, if you see a mistake, I apologize in advance.
We'll work on that for next year.
Yeah, I'll work harder, guys. I'll try to be more historically accurate next time.
Now, of course, you've got all these different takes in different stages of being built.
Yeah.
So, was that enjoyable to have to put together that many of the same type of design there? Did you just start from one and kind of take it apart to get each one?
So I made the deal. I said, hey, we're going to Gunner and I are going to build the factory. Arm, you're doing the tanks. You put those together. The printing process to actually get all the chalk marks really took a long time and a lot of research to see what the chalk marks meant, what the words meant, and really interesting to see how they started naming. They gave little mascots to each Panzer on the way out. So when they were saying, "Hey, go work on the tiger, go work on the cat," so they know which tank they were going to, which one they need to work on. So it was really interesting studying the markings as well.
Yeah. So those are the Panzer Brick Labs vehicles then, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Panzer Brick Labs Panther A's. So this would have been early 1944. Nürnberg was so deep in southern Germany that it didn't get bombed until late 44, even though this was a factory the Allies wanted to hit really badly. So much so that they put 15, 16, and 17-year-olds here as anti-aircraft gunners because it wasn't seen as something they could strategically hit because it was so far south. They had a lot of advance warning before they would have been hit. So.
And then outside the factory here, one technique I noticed is just an insane number of these quarter-round tiles.
I thought I had enough because on the Karelia mock that we had, I had that as the ballast for the railroad, but I had to order 12,000 more from the pick-a-brick wall to get this done. And it's using the quarter-round tile, and you use a straight plate, but then you put a jumper next to it to offset it by half a plate, and that way you can get them to interlock. And it's a nice cobblestone effect, especially from the angle. It gives it a really nice look. A lot of people have talked about doing that for their builds, so that's one thing people have mentioned a lot, for sure.
Do you know the total piece count in the whole build?
It's 200,000. There's a lot in the bottom because there are all the tunnels on all the sides of the build that you can't really see here because we thought it might be on a corner. So there's a lot underneath you can't see, and there's a lot that goes into this actual groundwork underneath. It's like 4 plates deep to get that effect, so somewhere in that area.
And even the brick-built lettering is really impressive, building that into the side.
Yeah, Gunner did that. It takes a little while to get the words, and especially some of the things you got going on there. So that's his specialty. So he got it done. I'm happy with how that turned out for sure.
And just really impressive work over here, all here with the whole building. Talk about kind of the structure of the building itself, because this isn't the type of structure we see a lot in these historical builds, usually not like a factory setting.
Yeah, the structure was interesting because you could see up in the beams the girders that supported it, and we needed something to hold the roof up too. So that was something that Gunner worked on a lot. It's traditional, but you could also see they had a lot of windows. There's a lot of windows all the way around to let in the natural light, so they didn't have to rely so much on the electricity. But also, when the roof's on, there's skylights all across the top too. So it's interesting today, if you still look at the manned plant in Germany, you can still see this building with the skylights that it actually had from World War II that's still there, which is very interesting. That's traditional. And a lot of people are coming by and saying, that's a traditional factory look that you don't see that often anymore, especially on this scale. With the walkways over the top and to get to the gantry cranes. So yeah, it's really got a nice industrial feel. I like the way it turned out.
What was the research like for this build? You mentioned kind of having to do a lot of that on your own. Where did you find that source material?
So we got the book, Nürnberg's Panzer Factory, a photographic study, and I contacted the author. I live here. He actually is about an hour away. Okay. So we were in contact. He shared a lot of photos from the National Archive that's here in the DC area that weren't published in the book. That actually, the Germans were very thorough. They had a picture at every station on the line. They had 300 or so. So I was really able to take that and get an exact representation of what and how they were doing each bit of work down the line. So you really make it as story accurate as possible. So that was, thankfully, this time I had something to draw on because we take hours and hours to do proper research for our builds, and that book really saved me a lot of time and it allowed us to put more time into the build rather than the research.
Yeah. Really incredible work here. Love to see this all come together. So what do you have planned for the future then?
That's a great question. We get here and then we say, okay, what are we going to do for next year? So last year we came up with this. So we'll see what Arm and I talk about or what we're developing and see what we come up next year.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.